Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Today I'm here with Christina Simpson, second year materials engineering student. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. At first, I wasn't really super interested in engineering in particular, but it was like a cultural thing, and like people tend to go into engineering if you're South Asian. And then in first year, I was like, oh, this is way harder than I thought it would be. I kind of have something to prove to myself that I can do it, so I'm in it. I think I've always just been interested in novelty, and I think that's a big part of why I really like space, because it's like, well, no one's ever done that before, so I want to do it. UofT has a space systems component to it, and they actually like launch a satellite into space, and I'm part of that, so that's super cool. My role is being part of the thermal team. So what we do is essentially make sure that the satellite doesn't overheat. My sort of research is for bake out, and that's basically just toasting the satellite to like a super high temperature to sort of decontaminate it. If you don't do that, then when it goes to space, there's components that might malfunction. You have to do it in a very specific way, and the whole thing costs $10,000. So we're trying to make sure not to mess that up. This is a topic I like love, actually, so Fantastic. That works out. I like making my own clothes. I got into that recently, mainly because I think most of the designs are bad and overpriced, and it's like I'm not paying $100 for jeans. This is funny because I had it's not good, but I had a goth phase first year university, and that was bad, and I'd wear like blue lipstick, and I'd leave the house, and my like very Indian mother is just having a heart attack. She's freaking out for a variety of reasons, but I think her main one was, there's so many like chemicals, and then you're wearing it, you're gonna like get cancer and die if you keep wearing blue lipstick. And I think that's really funny, so I just keep wearing the blue lipstick, and then I Google it, and like, no, you're not gonna die if you wear lipstick. But it's actually true that there's a lot of carcinogens and endocrine disruptors in makeup. If you wear lipstick every day, there's a very real chance that that could affect your fertility if you're not being careful about which brand you're buying it from. I was like, well, I'd like to make my own products then, so I came up with my own sort of lip balm formula, and I was selling those in the summer, and that was fun. I'm looking for co-founders, so if you guys are watching this, DM Sen Cosmetics, because I'm looking to expand my team.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the VoV podcast, Voices of Ink. Today I'm here with Christina Simpson, second year materials engineering student. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So normally I ask students or ask guests about their program, what they study, why they're interested in that. But there's one interesting thing I need to ask you about first. Do you really love Fanta that much?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your deal with Fanta? Why do you have a Fanta addiction? You're reminding me of my friend Adam, who's got a Coca-Cola addiction.
I do have a Fanta addiction. So this is what I figured out. Caffeine no longer works with me.
Okay.
I need sugar. So what I do is I go to either Metro or Dollarama, and I buy these 1 liter like soda things, and then I chug it at night, and that's how I study.
That's insane. That's a very unique method. I haven't heard anyone use that.
No, it works though.
Yeah, I'd imagine. Caffeine doesn't really do much for me either. I don't know, maybe placebo wise, but like I had a caffeine this morning because I took my last exam yesterday, and I didn't sleep much the night before studying for it. So I decided to have a coffee today. It doesn't really work on me, I don't think.
Yeah, it doesn't work on me either unless I take like espresso shots. Yeah. And if I take 4 of those, I see God and get stuff done.
Yeah. So Fanta, okay. Now, some people would say that sugar affects your health worse than caffeine might. Have you felt any negative effects from this new diet?
I haven't died, and for me, that's good enough.
Yeah. Okay, valid. Engineering is this is a perfect transition. Engineering is a tough program to be in. And compared to what I do, if you saw my timetable, you'd probably be very, pleased to have something like that. But engineering timetables are usually packed. Is that the case for you?
That is the case.
Okay. Yeah. So why did you decide to torture yourself here at UofT in your second year?
I mean, I think I just... at first, I wasn't really super interested in engineering in particular, but it was like a cultural thing, and like people tend to go into engineering if you're South Asian. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just pick it. And then in first year, I was like, oh, this is way harder than I thought it would be. Yeah. But then I kind of have something to prove to myself that I can do it, so I'm in it.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. So was there any sort of interest coming from you, or was it literally just, fulfilling the expectation?
I was very genuinely interested in chemistry because I had a high school teacher that was super passionate about it. So I became really interested in it. And then I would have gone into like pure chemistry, but I think like there's more money to be made in materials engineering. And you do a lot of chemistry as well. And now I absolutely love what I do. So I think it was very much the right decision.
Yeah, 100%. So in your first, so this is the end of your second year, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So in your first 2 years, if there's, most people watching this are already at U of T, but if there's someone who isn't maybe a high school student who's for some reason watching this and they're like, I'm interested to get into engineering, what if you had to give a sneak peek, have you taken away or learned in your first 2 years of engineering at U of T?
So first year is super general, and I didn't really like it as much for that reason. Like you take, and honestly, I think it's the hardest year because you're so new. But we took like mechanics courses, engineering design courses, and those were interesting. A chem course, which was my favorite. And then in the winter semester, we took more courses geared towards materials engineering. So that included like a processing course, another design thinking course more geared towards MSE. And then second year was super interesting because now these courses are actually having to do with like chem stuff, you know?
Yeah. And you've so I'm assuming the second year you picked more of what you want to study versus first year. Is there like required courses?
Not really. In Eng, even in second year, most of your courses are sort of picked out for you, except like one elective course. But third year, you get to sort of decide more of your courses. That's interesting.
What do you have in mind for your third year? What are you thinking of
I'm thinking a lot of like metallurgy courses because I took this course called phase transformations this semester, and that was super interesting. Mm-hmm. So that, and also I was thinking like biomaterials courses because I am considering neuroscience as one of the sort of fields to go into eventually.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Neuroscience. You have an interest also in space though. Yes. Is that right? So I'm thinking of engineering. I was waiting to hear you say stuff about like aeronautics or once again, what do you call it? What is the astronomy courses or stuff like that? Would you be interested in that, or do they not teach that in engineering necessarily?
I would be interested in that, but the closest I can get to that, I feel, is metallurgy courses because I don't think I'm allowed to directly take aerospace courses as like an elective. Because MSc doesn't really do that. Like the 4 different streams are like, there's a biomaterials one, which I was interested in, sustainability. I mean, I could go down that route, but that's not tied to space exactly. Mm-hmm. So what I did instead was I joined a design team. So UTAT has a space systems component to it, and they actually like launch a satellite into space, and I'm part of that. So that's super cool.
Nice. UTAT. What's UTAT?
That's the aerospace team. So they've got this CubeSat that we're working on. Like it's really small. It's like the size of a loaf, I think, like a loaf of bread. Yeah. And it's fairly new, the stuff that we're doing now. We're redesigning a bunch of components, like because our engineering requirements were wrong the first time. So that's like super exciting because there's more work to be done. Yeah. And we've launched another satellite before, but this one has more of a purpose because I think like we're trying to sort of map crop residue. That's what the satellite does. Like it takes pictures of a farm and then analyzes that. My role is being part of the thermal team. So what we do is essentially make sure that the satellite doesn't overheat. Mm-hmm. And my sort of research is for bake out. And that's basically just toasting the satellite to like a super high temperature to sort of decontaminate it. Yeah. And if you don't do that, then when it goes to space, there's components that might malfunction. Okay. Yeah, you have to do it in a very specific way, and the whole thing costs $10,000. Yeah. So we're trying to make sure not to mess that up.
Interesting. Okay, this is very. I don't know if I've ever had an episode. We've done over 100 episodes at this point. I don't think I've had a single episode of anyone involved actually with the aerospace team at U of T. So this is pretty sweet. $10,000. Yeah. What does that go to? Like, what is that spent on to test this thing doesn't heat up in flames? Well, is that what it's testing? I'm assuming, yeah.
Kind of. Like, I think essentially the goal is outgassing, if I'm being specific. And as like, I'm not the head of the team, so I don't have the most knowledge, but I know quite a bit. So it's making sure that, because everything has gases trapped in it, right? And then when something goes into space, all of those gases are released, and there's been problems in like previous satellites and stuff where it sort of gets in the way of like lenses,
Okay.
and then the purpose is kind of ruined. So heating it up prevents stuff like that happening, essentially.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And now why are you, like, what's the purpose of having these photos of the farms? Like, is it just for study material? Like, why do you get those?
I think to analyze like how like crop production, like I think after, from what I understand, like the science team does most of this, but yeah, I think we're helping the farm sort of analyze how much of their crop growth is successful in some way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that's pretty sweet. When did you first get involved with them? Was it this year or last year?
I'd say I was involved in them during first year for like one semester, but I think it was too much at that time because I wasn't very good at managing the workload. But then I got a lot more involved with them this semester.
Yeah. Okay. I just watched, this is me. You have all the real scientific, discussion to be had. I'm going to talk about movies. I literally just watched Interstellar the other day.
I
Have
love
you watched that
Interstellar,
movie?
yes.
Fantastic movie. I did take one astronomy course. I took it AST 201, which is, I'm sure it's in the arts and science stream. So it was pretty interesting, and learning about some of this stuff. Relativity is awesome because once again, it's in that movie, and just the idea of space exploration, we could talk about is Mars, living on Mars. Elon Musk right now is a big name. People are not very happy with him, it seems, in some parts of the US. What do you think about maybe going to Mars? Not like personally, I mean, maybe personally if you'd like to do that, but like, do you think that in our lifetime you think we're going to get there?
Yeah, because NASA, this is a topic I like love actually, so Fantastic. That works out. So NASA's Artemis missions are essentially trying to build like a lunar colony on the moon, and that's very active. And I also went to this, like there's a club called Nuclear UofT, and they're really interesting. And in one of their events, there was a company called Nuclear Promise, and what they're doing is they're trying to put like a nuclear reactor on the moon to sort of, it's super cool as part of like this lunar colony. And there's also other Canadian companies, like I think it's called the Canadian Space Mining Corporation. They're very early stage, but they do similar stuff where they're also trying to develop a nuclear reactor to go to the moon. And like NASA's thought a lot of this stuff through, so that's going to happen for sure. We're going to go to the moon and colonize that. So if that'll happen, then I think Mars will also probably happen next.
Okay, interesting. Would you be part of that crew? I've heard a million people, I've heard is the number you need to start like civilization on Mars to make sure nobody, like not everything just dies out. Would you sign a paper? Would you change, I guess, leave this life to start a new one in another planet?
If I had the chance, I think I absolutely would.
Yeah.
Like if someone handed that to me.
What about that interests you? Because some people are very like staunch on saying, why would I do that? It's dangerous. I got all my family here. What particularly about that interests you?
I think I've always just been interested in novelty, and I think that's a big part of why I really like space, because it's like, well, no one's ever done that before, so I want to do it.
Yeah, 100%. That's sweet. And I mean, it takes a lot of bravery, I would say. It takes a lot of courage, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not fulfilling that interest, I can't imagine having a thought in my head and it nags at me, because I'm naturally also like kind of a curious person, which is maybe not so curious that I'd go to Mars, but curious in other ways that I would interview someone who might want to go to Mars, which is good. But you were saying earlier, neuroscience is kind of the interest you're leaning towards.
I would say I'm more heavily sort of leaning towards space, but then it's like for my undergrad, I was thinking still like a biomaterials kind of theme, because they don't really offer anything that ties to space specifically.
Right. Okay.
And it's more of like a secondary interest where it's like, well, if this doesn't work out, then it's like neuroscience is really cool too.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know. I think there's so much we don't know about the human brain.
Yeah.
And I used to work at this was ages ago. I think I did just one semester during the fall at this professor's lab, Dr. Garten, and he was doing really cool neuroscience research. And that was super thrilling. So if I could be part of that, that would be cool too.
I mean, this is the novelty that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about space. I want to learn about space. We don't know anything about the human mind. I want to learn about the human mind. That's very cool. I was talking to my friend, Josh Lunger's his name. He is big into AI. He's a computer science student. And he was talking about, he's graduating this year. He was talking about how he's very interested in, it's a field called connectomics. Maybe that's mispronounced, but connectomics, let's just say. And he thinks that if you were able to take a snapshot of the human brain, basically of the human mind, weighing every single neuron in the mind, you'd be able to reconstruct, let's say, a similar version, literally artificial intelligence, if you had all the mechanics of the mind in a I don't want to say in a picture, but basically in like a document, let's say, that you could duplicate, then you would essentially have the ultimate form of artificial intelligence. That episode where I talked to him, episode 92, we went really deep into the philosophy of the mind, of humanity, of why we exist. When you are doing your work and you're following your interest with space, with neuroscience, is there any part of the philosophical aspect of it that piques your curiosity, or is it more learning about the physical mechanics of how these things work?
It's more the physical, but I had this existential crisis a while ago about free will, and that was interesting, and try to learn all I could about that. I haven't reached an answer. I don't know if we have it. Yeah. But I think I would disagree with your friend about the mind, though. I think, we could have a much higher form of artificial intelligence, but we wouldn't be able to make a machine sentient. I feel like there's so much we don't know about consciousness, Right.
So about consciousness, about the soul. This is an interesting, I don't know if you'd be comfortable answering this question. Are you religious at all? Do you have a faith?
No. But at the same time, I'm not so convinced that reductionism is true, that everything can be sort of neatly reduced into atoms, that if we started from ground zero, we could just build our way up. That I don't know. I took a course, an elective course called Buddhism and Psychology, and that was really interesting. And my professor too, I don't think he agreed that the mind could just be so simply reduced to the brain.
Interesting. So for you, if you're trying to think of an answer, if you're it can't be this, it could be something else. Is there that something else? Because a lot of people resort to it's God, it's the soul, it's the Holy Spirit. You can't explain it. It's above the human consciousness of understanding. It's above our three dimensions of experience. This is, I guess, tying also back to Interstellar that I was saying before. They basically break down. They're like a five-dimensional world. Yeah, it's crazy. But for you, do you have an alternative that you think could be more true?
I don't know. I think consciousness will figure it out eventually. For me, I'm generally against going, oh, this is beyond our understanding, because there's so many. I think if we just went to an Egyptian, we showed him that light, he's going to be well, how did that work? It's God. And I think consciousness is like that too. I think our technology is just not there yet, but eventually we'll sort of figure that out. But I also have a huge problem with seeing people as just sentient meat sacks, because if reductionism is true, then that's what we are at the end of the day. And I think maybe that's true. I would rather it not be.
That's good. You have to, and I would say, even though that's obviously not religious faith, I still think that's a form of faith, of wanting something to be true and doing the work to see if it is. Obviously that's I mean, that's kind of what science is. That's why we have hypotheses in the first place. A lot of early scientists, or maybe before hypothesis, the idea of hypothesis testing and actually doing experiments was even a thing. people people would criticize that as it couldn't be true science if you're going and looking for something. It has to just be naturally observed. If you're trying to find a thing, you can maybe subconsciously set up the experiment in a way that's going to, favor the odds of finding that thing, of course. But I think that it's not bad to have faith guide your search for truth. If you want a thing to be true, obviously, if you've done the research or more than research, the searching, just the overall searching for that answer, and you've come to an honest conclusion that I don't think that there's any evidence for this, unfortunately, then maybe change your beliefs based off of that evidence if you think it's clear enough. But yeah, I think that you make a decent point too about maybe we can understand things that right now we determine to be not understandable.
Oh yeah.
There was something I was going to add to. Right. This also adds to a larger point. There are a lot of big questions that humans have about the world. Obviously, you have a lot of things that you would like to know one day. A lot of scientists, a lot of researchers go their entire lives searching for the answer to a question that maybe 90 years isn't long enough to find.
Oh yeah.
Are you okay at this stage of your life, second year university, knowing that maybe you like to commit yourself to searching for the answer of a question that you might never find the answer to?
No, I think that bothers me, like the idea of like not accomplishing what I want to accomplish.
Yeah.
But I guess it would be satisfying to me if I could lay the groundwork for something.
Right.
Like, fortunately in engineering, projects don't really take 90 years. Like if NASA wants to launch a satellite, they'll there's like a strict deadline and it's like, figure this out by this time. Yeah. So it's like, you see the rover, you see the satellite, and it's like, it's there, and it's like, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Bigger than, because this is the type of thing that you were kind of getting at. You were like, oh, I like novelty, I like new things. There's always more unknown. There's always plenty of questions that maybe are guiding you that, yeah, like, I don't know, like, what is your main, I don't want to say concern, but like, what makes you most curious about space? Is there a specific thing more than just, we don't know a lot about it?
I think for me, it's also that space is just such a different environment than what we have on Earth. Yeah. So when we're designing like a satellite for space, there's so many other factors that we need to consider, and that's always just super interesting to me. And I also feel like we haven't done enough in the space sector, because I don't think, like, at least to my knowledge, we haven't really sent anything out further than our solar system. Okay. That's disappointing to me, and I think more funding should be put into this kind of technology for sure.
I've heard of something like that. Once again, probably not a common thing, like you were saying, but I feel like 8 years ago, I watched a video of them explaining there was a satellite that they just decided to send out and not like try to get back. Just basically they put a bunch of different slides, like a bunch of different pictures of stuff on Earth. They put mathematical equations, they put pictures of war, food, pop culture, all these different things, that if there was an extraterrestrial a community, whoever, if there was aliens who picked it up, they could see, oh my goodness, there's something else out there. Obviously haven't heard anything back from that, but that would be interesting. Yeah. What are you thinking that we'd find? Aliens? You believe in aliens?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I think they probably wouldn't look the way they would in like, a sci-fi movie, but maybe like, I don't know, some weird kind of bacteria on some planet. NASA actually did something that was interesting. Like there's this asteroid called like asteroid Bennu, I think, and they sent something up there because I think there were organic compounds on that asteroid, so carbon and stuff that we would need for life. Yeah.
Interesting. I like to think of the human conflict that could arise with a multi-planetary with humans being a multiplanetary species.
Oh yeah.
Just think of all the issues we have right now. You think Russia, Ukraine is a rivalry, or Israel-Palestine. Imagine an Earth and Mars conflict.
Oh gosh.
I'm sure that could probably happen. It depends who we send there, but over enough time, yeah, for sure. That's tough. Anyways, this is a very interesting topic. I'm sure we'll circle back on it, but you were telling me, I don't know if you want to mention it. If not, tell me to cut it out. But with your neuroscience work, your biomechanics work, that's tied into what you're doing for the summer with this professor. Can you talk about that or no?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's not directly related, but I think it probably, like that volunteer position that I did definitely probably helped me get this one. And it's super exciting what he's doing. He always has these really interesting ideas, my professor. It's essentially like working using algae for carbon capture. I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to get into it, but I think I can like very briefly just be like, yeah, we're trying to make a bioreactor of some sort.
Interesting.
Which is super exciting.
What's his name? Can we shout him out?
Yeah, Dr. Hatton.
There you go. So without revealing too much, without getting yourself in trouble, what do you want to get out from this experience? Is it just for the summer?
Yeah.
4 months?
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking to take away from it?
Well, I think part of this was also novelty because a lot of the ideas that and the things that he's trying to test, other people haven't done that before. So I was like, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And another thing was, I guess real world experience of some sort, because it's like, this is actual real research.
Right.
And I get to help, and that's super cool.
Yeah, that is sweet. Okay. When you're okay, so yeah, I'm trying to keep up to speed with you because my work, my future seems it's going to be tied into business likely. I am fascinated with marketing, sales, this type of thing. This seems a lot grander. So this seems like the kind of thing that you want to trust the people that are trying to answer those big questions.
Oh, yeah.
So you seem very guided by curiosity.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, studying something like this, you're clearly very smart. When you have off time, when you're not doing UofT engineering homework or courses, what are you interested in outside of this? Is it this? Is it engineering, your passion? I'm learning this. This is my responsibility, but I also do this when I'm not working because I just love it too much. Or is there other stuff? It's
a mix of stuff. I would say I like making my own clothes. I got into that recently.
Nice.
And that's been fun. Mainly because I think most of the designs are bad and overpriced. And it's like, I'm not paying $100 for jeans.
Yeah.
So I'm 5'1", so that's great if you're trying to buy fabric because, I only need like a yard and a half.
Yeah.
And I have a dress, so that's been nice. I used to really like to draw, and then I kind of got out of it. I play the violin, which I learned out of spite, so that was fun.
Out of spite.
When I was 9, this girl in class told me that I couldn't play the violin. I was like, you're wrong. So I decided to play it up, been playing it for a decade.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, if Maitali's watching this, just so you know.
There you go. Hopefully.
She's probably not. She's in America.
Okay. Were you went to high school? No, this wasn't high school. Elementary school, 9 years old. Maybe you were in high school at 9 years old learning space and stuff. But did you grow up in the U.S.?
I lived in the U.S. from when I was 9 to when I was 13.
Okay.
I would like to go back, just not now.
Yeah. What's the? I mean, it's hard to say 9 to 13, but if you had to compare the culture, U.S. Canada, could you? Do you know what the difference is? Have you noticed anything between the two?
I would say U.S. has more personality.
That's fair.
I think there was this, I found this really thrilling because, I used to live in India, and in India it's at least more than a decade ago, and cultures change in a decade. But it was very listen, at least that this is just my opinion and my perception, but there was a lot of fulfilling your duty and family and, kind of you have to make something of yourself to make your parents proud kind of thing. But in America, it was do this because you want to.
Yeah.
And that's something I liked a lot better because it's like, why should I try to make someone else proud? I want to do it because I want to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Interesting. Because I can see, it's hard because once again, I only have this one perspective. I've never lived anywhere else in my entire life. I've been very keen on the negative side of telling people do what you want, because like a lack of duty sometimes could hurt a culture. You know, people like just feel no need to work or to make something of themselves. Doing something that you're interested in, which is still respectable by default, I think would honor your family and honor your parents.
Oh yeah.
So in your case, that's a great thing. In a lot of people's cases, though, they get trapped playing video games and smoking weed.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's tough that way.
Oh, for sure. Like I think our culture is too hedonistic, where it's like, you know, it's like maximize pleasure to minimize suffering. But that's not how people work, because if you don't have a purpose, you're going to be miserable.
100%.
And I think you also need like a healthy amount of like adversity, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's also an issue. Like this is interesting because I was talking to my cousin, and like me and her are super close in India. And like, you know, I think she brings it up too, that like adversity is like super important for people to grow. And there's definitely like less of an emphasis on community in the West than there is in India, at least from my knowledge.
Yeah. Like community, when you say community, I know that, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Family ties are a lot tighter, I would say, in India too. But then also just with your neighbors, for example, it feels tough because I think that you could easily disagree with this. I was going to say something, but I know this actually to not be true. I was going to say in India, you have something very common with your neighbors, and the culture is somewhat unified, whereas countries like Canada and the US, they were kind of, I don't want to say they were built on diversity, but there's no inherent race to the
That's
US.
True.
You know, you have people who descended from Europe, and then you had people come from Asia, India. Like it seems like a very diverse country, Canada, US. India, though, I know there is diversity amongst Indians themselves. Like there's all sorts of different, I saw a map. There's like at least 10 languages, like 10 main languages in India, right? Across different states or whatnot.
I would say far more than 10.
More than 10. Yeah.
And like the North and the South are super culturally different.
Yeah. 100%. They, I've heard the beef. I've heard the issues for sure.
I mean, the South has like better food in my opinion.
Yeah.
I might be biased because I'm from there.
Yeah. That's fair. So why, how did you end up in Canada? If you weren't born in India, were you?
No. Wait, yeah, I was.
You were born in India.
I think my parents were just like, oh, there's more opportunity. And that's very true. Like, you know, like I got into UofT here, but I don't think I would have gotten into IIT in India, where it's like 0.1% acceptance rate.
Right.
Yeah, like UofT engineering is like, I think like 15 or 20%.
Yeah.
So that's a lot better than 0.1.
Yeah. How do you think family dynamics work between the two countries? Like, from my understanding, India seems a lot more traditional. In the West here, we've kind of modernized the idea of family for better or for worse. For you, do you see yourself, you know, having with this passion you have for all sorts of different things, engineering specifically, obviously, when you think of family life, do you want a family life that's closer to something like you have in India, or do you think that the concept of family in the West would be better suited for what you want to do?
For me, since I'm super passionate about these things, I'm worried that, like, you know, if I start a family, that's going to tie me down in some way. But I also haven't thought about it very seriously. And I will say that India's kind of like modernized quite a bit. So there's so much sort of focus on achievement. And like, at least with my parents, like it varies like immensely, like, you know, but I don't think they really have a problem with it if I just devote my life to a career.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
which is probably what I will do, I think.
Does that, for you, when you think of doing that, is it like you're making a sacrifice by devoting yourself to career? It's not necessarily that you don't want a family, it's just that I care too much about this work. I unfortunately have to sacrifice this, or is it like I really am interested in work, this does not appeal to me?
Yeah, it doesn't appeal to me because it's like, you know, if you have like a kid, then that's 18 years of your life committing to something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know if I want to do that.
I hear you. Because, because there's some people, this is, I guess, maybe the Western argument would be you can balance the two. You can have, you know, a prosperous career and raise a family. It's not like one has to sacrifice for the other. Some people would say you could, but you're just not going to do either as well. You're going to be you're going to have a decent career, and you're going to be a decent, like, mother or father or, you know, family person. Do you think that's true?
I think it depends on the person. I don't think I could do it. I think like maybe some superhuman woman can wake up at like 4:30 and be like a perfect mother and also like a perfect like entrepreneur or whatever.
Boss lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. You make your own clothes. Okay. Have you made these today?
No.
Okay. Okay. Just because of price? Is this the reason?
I started off because of price, but then it's like I used to be very artistic and I used to draw a lot. I don't do that anymore. But, you know, I could kind of channel that into something else. So I like sort of making my own designs.
Yeah.
Mainly because I don't like anything that I see, and the things I like are like $200. So
Yeah. Expensive taste. Now, this will tie in. We'll take a quick break to let the cameras cool down, but we're gonna get into your business.
Yes.
Your cosmetics business, which, I mean, I think is related to, it's in the same universe as clothes.
Oh yeah.
Kind of. Okay, good. And yeah, I'll ask you more about that. But we'll take a quick break. Back with Christina Simpson. Is it Christina or Tina?
I go by Tina.
You go by Tina. So have you been cringing every time I've been saying your full name? Is it only your parents that call you Christina?
No, even they call me Tina.
Oh, they call you. Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, never mind. Only the guy at the government office calls you Christina, I guess. Tina Simpson. You are going to be busy this summer. You got your research position, as you were talking about earlier, but you're also you've already started.
Yeah.
You're going to try to work on your cosmetics business.
Yes.
Sen Cosmetics. What inspired you to start this?
So I was always like a huge fashion and makeup person. And like, this is funny because I had like, it's not good, but I had a goth phase first year university, and that was bad. And I'd wear like blue lipstick, and I'd leave the house, and my like very Indian mother is just, you know, having a heart attack, and she's like, she's freaking out for a variety of reasons. But I think her main one was, Tina, there's so many like chemicals in there, and you're wearing it, you're gonna like get cancer and die if you keep wearing blue lipstick. And I think that's really funny, so I just keep wearing the blue lipstick. And then it's like, I actually like read about this. She was like, Google it, you know, I'm correct, you're gonna get cancer and die. And I was like, she's being ridiculous. And then I Google it, and like, no, you're not gonna die if you wear lipstick. But it's actually true that there's a lot of carcinogens and endocrine disruptors in makeup. So, you know, like if you wear lipstick every day, there's a very real chance that could affect your fertility if you're not being careful about which brand you're buying it from. And I did my research trying to find sort of natural products that are sort of at a reasonable price, and I couldn't really find anything, especially something that would work for my skin tone.
Yeah.
Because when I looked for that, there was like next to nothing. So what I'm trying to figure out, and even like brands that market themselves as like organic or natural, oftentimes they're not. Like I looked at the Burt's Bees tinted lip balm, and that's got titanium dioxide in it, which is a carcinogen. And that's usually put with mica. And that's like a sort of natural colorant, but it also isn't really. Because if you use natural mica, there's, depending on how you process it, there's a real risk of, you know, poisonous substances being into it. Or like the only thing I could find where it was like actually natural is if you go on Etsy and you look at Etsy sellers. And most of them don't really have like a chemical engineering any sort of chemistry background. You know, they're
Right.
just putting things in things and hoping things work.
Yeah.
And like I saw someone was using rose madder. That causes birth defects. And
Oh,
it's
This is on Etsy.
it was on Etsy.
Yeah.
And the cosmetic sort of regulations in Canada are super lax.
Okay.
And it's like there's a lot of things that you're not allowed to use, but no one checks.
Right.
Like I just had to fill out a form declaring my ingredients and like the concentrations roughly for each product that I made. And it's like no one's coming and checking to see if you're actually doing it.
And this is for, you're filling this out for who? Who's asking for these?
the government of Canada,
The
like
government
Health
of Canada.
Canada.
Okay.
But then it's like no one came to check anything to
Yeah,
see if
yeah.
I'm doing it. Like I could just be lying.
Right.
So like, you know, unless someone dies, no
Yeah.
one's checking.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'd like to make my own products then. So I came up with my own sort of lip balm formula. And I was selling those in the summer, and that was fun. I think I want to do it more this summer and take it more seriously because last summer, I had more funding last summer because I got a grant, but I also had never done it before. So I made I'd say a fair amount of profit, but not nearly what I wanted.
Yeah.
So this year I'm trying to sort of scale up and learn from my mistakes from the last time I did it because I came up with a very good formula. I just didn't really market it all that much.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to go do that and see if my sales improve and also come up with a blush line because what I was initially setting out to do was make blushes and lipsticks that are natural, but also work with people who have darker skin tones.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm going to try to set out to do. I have a few pigments in mind, but I'd still have to, they're expensive. So trying to do my research and find something cheaper.
There you go.
Yeah.
You seem like a very, what's the word? Resourceful is one. You're seeing how expensive clothes are. You're like, I'm going to make my own damn clothes. You're seeing how the blue lipstick gives you cancer. I'm going to make my own makeup. So that's a good thing. But you also seem a little bit ambitious. I feel, I was asking you earlier, when you have free time, what do? You gave me a short list. Is there anything... I have to poke and find out if you have things that you're like, yeah, I do this when I get distracted. How do you, I feel like everyone kind of has their default way of wasting time. Some people are like, they watch Netflix and they're like, oh, I've watched too much Netflix, blah, blah, blah. Some people get caught scrolling social media.
I doom scroll.
Is scrolling. Everyone struggles with scrolling, but
oh yeah,
that's your weak link.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
What's worked for that though? And this is the only tip that I found controls it.
Yeah.
I just put my phone on black and white.
Yeah.
And that ruins the appeal. And then it's I don't scroll anymore. And it's that's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, that does work. I've seen that. I've seen turning your, what do you call it? Red scale, turning your phone to red scale. So it's basically the whole thing is pitch red. I could show you that also.
I might
has some
try
good
that
effects.
because then it's unappealing, you know?
That's what it is. Same as the black and white.
Yeah.
It's it ruins the whole experience, I guess. It's basically you have a piece of paper. No one gets addicted to reading books. Maybe some people stories, but it's harder. Your mind doesn't necessarily get trapped like it does with social media. So that's good. But yeah, okay. You're gonna apply the lessons that you learned from the first time around.
Yeah.
Are you interested in entrepreneurship? Is this another passion that you have? Because I feel like it has to be a little bit if you're trying to actually grow it this summer with other stuff that you're doing.
I think for me, it's more so just problem solving. If I can solve a problem, then that's the part of it I like. I'm not sure if I'm passionate about entrepreneurship for the sake of it. I like the idea of just if I'm working for someone else, but I like what they're working towards, I'd much rather that, I know I want to work in the space sector. That's my sort of main goal. This business thing was just fun side project. It started off as a fun side project in the summer. And this sounds bad, but I couldn't get an internship and I saw a grant going, oh, start your own company this summer. And I had an idea. I didn't think I would get it, but I did. So I was like, oh, interesting. Ultimately, I want to scale it up to a point where it's something that I can sell. But then it's if I sell it and they change my sort of formulas, then that would bother me.
Yeah.
it was also like a very real like need, you know. And I think that was part of it because I actually just could not find anything. So I was like, fine, I'm going to make my own.
Yeah. That's sweet. Okay, that's really cool. I have a question about that. Yeah. Problem solving. So you seem addicted to solving problems. What's the family culture like that you grew up in? Did your parents like have these really high expectations for you? Like, are your parents, once again, talking about them like being, I think you were saying how they were both like working harder, they both, you know, achieved things. Do you have siblings?
Yeah.
Do you guys like compete, you know, push each other?
Not really. Like, we're very, very different. And like, what's funny is my mom was very sort of doctor, lawyer, engineer with me. And then like with her, it's like, you can go into whatever you want, sweetie. And I'm like, what?
Where was this treatment with me?
Yeah. I don't mind though, because it worked out well, where she's like, I want you to go into a science field. And it's like, that's great. I love science.
Yeah.
So we never really fought, or like, there was no conflict really.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I want to like work in the space sector. She's like, that's great. I'm going to go tell everyone that you want to work in the space sector.
Yeah.
You know?
That's interesting. We were talking off camera about the culture of engineering, materials engineering, the gender splits, mostly guys.
Yeah.
You're I won't say a lone wolf, but maybe like a 20% lone wolf.
Yeah.
How is it being a girl in materials engineering specifically?
I don't really mind, because I'll say like most of the guys there are like friendly and nice for the most part. Awkward, but you know, people, I think since it's a smaller discipline, people are very inclined towards like helping each other. I've heard things about, I think that's the culture in engineering in general, just because of how difficult it is. I think you put people under sufficient pressure, they just start cooperating. Because it's like, if I think I'm going to fail and the other guy thinks he's going to fail, we're united by failure. So gender doesn't matter.
Yeah, 100%. That's sweet. Okay. What is your sister interested in?
I think she wants to go into like, she changes her mind like every other day. It's like fascinating to see. I think it's either music or physiotherapy or something in between that.
Very similar fields, music and physiotherapy. Yeah, 100%. Short-term plans. We've been talking a lot of big things. Okay, we've been talking about why you're interested in space and engineering, neuroscience. Obviously, we talked a little bit about what you're going to be doing in the summer. But once you graduate from U of T, where do you want to go directly after that with your degree? Do you think about that at all? Like, what is your mission while you're studying?
I would say, like, since joining UTAT, what's nice is they have connections to like sort of private space companies, a few of them, right? Like they look at UTAT on your resume and they like that. So ideally, if I'm lucky, the plan is this one company called Kepler Space, and they do really cool sort of satellite stuff. So if I could work with them, that would be great, because I really enjoy working on a satellite. There's another called MDA Space and another called like the Canadian Space Mining Corporation. So if I can work for these three companies, that would be really good. Or maybe even like a master's degree in like aerospace engineering. Like, I think that's where I want to take it. If I can't pursue that, then I was thinking doing something neuroscience related. But this is what I would say is like my main interest.
Okay, that's good. When you're trying to achieve these things, when you set goals for yourself, what's your relationship like with yourself? Are you strict with yourself? Are you hard on yourself when you try to do things and maybe you come up short, or maybe you didn't do as well on a test, like you studied hard for it, or maybe you didn't study enough and you're like, man, I should have done better? Like, how do you treat yourself when it comes to work and trying to achieve such big things?
No, I'm like super self-critical. I'll be like, oh yeah, I have achieved nothing. I'm 21 and I have a failure. My friend is like, what are you talking about? But I'm blessed to have like good friends.
That's good.
That are like, no, you're not a failure. Stop doing that. And I think like what I've learned is, if I've like super self-critical, it just makes things worse, because then, you're kind of, you can't like you can't achieve your goals by just going, oh, I'm a terrible person for not doing well in it.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, let's be more rational about this and be like, okay, I was using the wrong strategy.
Right.
Especially because like with ADHD, I used to treat that like a character defect.
Yeah.
And if you do that, ADHD does not like that.
Yeah.
So going, oh, what kind of strategies are going to help you get the goals that you need to achieve helps.
That's good. That's good. Where do you think that self-critical kind of approach or tendency is not approach, obviously that self-critical tendency comes from? Do you think you kind of inherited that from your parents, from your culture? Is that just how you are? You're like, I set success is the standard for me. That's the thing. It's like, I heard this on another podcast, and the guy was talking about how with high achievers or people who hold themselves to high standards, it's hard for them to ever feel too good about themselves and what they do, because success or achieving things is the bare minimum. It's the requirement. So when you do achieve things, when you do get a good grade, or when you do land a summer position with a professor, it's like, well, obviously, this is kind of the bar. Like, I was supposed to do this. You don't necessarily give yourself props. Is that the case for you, do you think, sometimes, where you're like, I achieve these things, but it's like, I should be achieving them?
I don't know. Like the summer thing, I was like relieved to have, because I was very worried that I would like have nothing in the summer and was just going to go work at No Frills. Yeah. So I was like, I don't have to work at No Frills. This is great.
Yeah.
But school-wise, I would say like I'm pretty hard on myself, because I've been wanting to sort of get better grades than I do. Yep. But like I figured out like what the issue is, so I think I'll probably do better next semester.
When you were, because you were saying how like it's just like improving the strategy, for example. In engineering, you talked about the cooperation, that's fair, because I don't necessarily believe that, the personality type of the engineering student is just completely different from the average arts and science student, that they just tend to work better in teams. It's probably that pressure and that feeling like everyone is under the same sort of weight, and they're like, we have to band together. That does make a lot of sense. Are there any other studying methods or I guess just tips for students who aren't under the same amount of pressure? Maybe they haven't been forced to improve their methods, that you've kind of adopted or worked on to succeed in school?
I would say like the Pomodoro method works really well, especially if you have ADHD, because it's like 25 minutes. I set like a goal for those 25 minutes, and then it's a 5-minute break, and then it's 25 minutes again. Weirdly enough, I can't study that well in libraries, but I can study really well in my room. And I don't know if this will work for everyone, but I just drink like ridiculous amounts of tea when I study. Yeah. And it works, because I'll be like, okay, after 25 minutes, I can have tea. So if people reward themselves, probably helps. Yeah.
I was just checking that actually, because I was reading some of the stuff on your forum. Are you in the UofT Tea Club?
Yes.
What is that? I've never heard of this.
So great.
Yeah.
It's similar to this podcast actually, where it's just a bunch of people, and then you have a really good conversation with them over tea.
That's great. Over tea.
Yeah.
Where do they do that?
They do that in like Sussex.
Okay.
Yeah, like they have weekly tea times where it's like thrice a week, I think, and then you just go in at like 1:30 or 2:30 or whatever, and you just have tea with them. Okay,
fantastic. Once again, just refreshing my mind on some of the things I wanted to ask you about. One of them was, how do I shift this? You like drinking tea. I don't know if the U of T culture is as party centric as other universities, but what are your thoughts on alcohol?
I approve immensely.
Okay. Yeah. Is this a study? Is this not a study tip, I'm assuming, or is it?
It is.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Do you just do better studying a little bit buzzed out?
Yeah, I took a shot of like Jagermeister before my exam yesterday.
Wait, what? What exam was this?
This was my face transformation exam.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, like my Instagram story is just concoctions that I make to get myself to study better. But yeah, guys, peppermint tea and a shot of Jagermeister in it. Oh my goodness. It works so well.
Do you have the neuroscience to explain what's going on here, or is this just a weird thing in your own head?
It works.
It just works. It's just experimental data.
Yeah. Yeah.
facts in front of your face.
Mhm.
That's insane.
Beer works better.
Beer works better.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the first time you discovered this? How did you realize that alcohol helped you study?
I think I was just like, oh my god, I'm so unmotivated. I don't have the urge to do it. It was like a mechanics problem set. And I looked at it. I was like, it is making me miserable. So I go and because I live at a student residence pretty close to like a few places that like sell alcohol. So I was like, I could just go get a beer and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
Is that healthy? No. But then I drink it and then I suddenly have the motivation to do it. I'm like, well, I'm happy because I've had a beer and I'm relaxed, so this isn't bad.
There you go. You say you posted different types of concoctions on your story.
Yes.
You said obviously beer works. If you had to give us the top 3 best
Guinness.
Best alcohol drinks to study with, what would they be?
I would say a Guinness, and then Coors is cheap, so that's generally what I drink.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Or like La Balt Blues, which are also, I don't like it, but my wallet likes it. So
Yeah.
we have that. And then I don't like Jagermeister on its own because it tastes like medicine.
Okay.
But when you stick it into a tea,
Yeah.
you see God.
Okay. And guaranteed 4.0,
Yes.
basically. There you go.
I mean, that's going to be my study tactics next semester.
Okay. That's there you go. Are you trying to take over the world, Tina?
I would like to. I
You would
think
like to?
the world would be better if I took it over.
Yeah. As supreme queen.
Yeah. I think I'd probably just like make beer a human right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think everyone would appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bars.
Especially in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would make it like so bars can't charge more than like a certain amount, like price cap it.
Okay. This is your main campaign. What other policy shifts are we seeing on the planet? Would you also be ruling on Mars as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Would bring
Once
beer
we're
to
there.
Mars.
Yeah. We'll work on this next summer.
Yes.
You got a lot to focus on right now. We need to get the cosmetics page going. We need to make some sales there.
Oh yeah.
We have to we got to work on biomechanics with Professor
Hatton.
and we got to get that crops camera up in space, and then we can discuss some more policy improvements, free beer and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a good conversation.
Yeah, this was really fun.
Do you have any final thoughts? Any last words? Maybe something we haven't touched on that you want to bring up before we sign off?
Oh, I'm looking for co-founders for my business. So if you guys are watching this, DM Sen Cosmetics because I'm looking to expand my team.
There you go. At SEINE.cosmetics.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. There you go. We just take a screenshot on that just in case if it can't see. We'll pop it up there.
Yes.
Tina, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Absolutely. Well, I wish you best of luck with everything you have going on. This seems like a lot. I think you can pull them all off, though. You seem like you're pretty dialed in.
Oh yeah,
So,
should be exciting.
Absolutely. You're gonna graduate in 2 years, 2 more years at UofT.
Yeah, I mean, I might like take a reduced course load just so that I can get like better grades.
That's fair. Well, however long it takes.
Yeah.
Best of luck. Respect. You seem like you're got a bright future ahead of you. So
hopefully.
maybe we'll do part 2 on Mars or something if we do another podcast. Make sure ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. That is VoV Podcast. We will see you next Sunday. You can follow us on Instagram @Voices of Vic. Peace out.